Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we Frankenstein together an all-new Mario game from parts scavenged from old games. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellis, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell. How's it going, Mark?
It's going great. How's it going for you?
Going pretty good for me as well. I just lit a candle in here.
It's really nice. I love the way this candle smells.
It's a good smelling candle. I feel like every home should have some good smelling candles.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of watermelon Airheads, which is the sweetest smell of all.
Really? You think sweeter than like cherry Airheads? Or like any other Airheads?
I guess maybe because watermelon was always my favorite as a child. Do you think you could stomach a Airhead as an adult?
How much of an Airhead do I have? Like all at once?
Yeah.
How did you eat an Airhead as a kid? Did you like take bites from it or did you like fold it up and put the whole thing in your mouth?
So,
this is gross. I want to hear the answer though.
If an Airhead is still in its package and it's like a full-size Airhead, I guess you could probably do it with a small one, but it won't be as effective. Grab it from one end and shake it, right? And it will shrink down into a like Airhead chunk.
So you're like collapsing it.
Yeah.
And getting out all the air holes.
So it's basically like folding it without folding it.
Can you also freeze Airheads? Do they behave strangely when they're frozen?
I don't know. I've never tried that. Now I want to.
I feel like it would be a nightmare treat.
It'd be like a sucker, right?
I mean, probably. It seems like it'd be too sweet. I feel like I would eat it and die.
Well, freezing it won't make it more sweet.
No, that's true.
Eating one in general will make us die.
Right. That's, I guess, the fundamental premise here is that we should not be eating Airheads as adult men.
Nope, we just light the candles and let the scent take us away to better times.
Better times than we could eat an Airhead without wanting to vomit. Mark, are you ready to get into our main topic of this week?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And that topic, of course, is we're going to put together a new Mario game. Maybe two. Maybe you put together a Mario game and I put together a Mario game.
We each have 5 components.
Yes.
That something we've liked or really enjoyed in a, liked or really enjoyed.
Right.
One
take
or
your pick.
the other.
Take your pick. It doesn't matter which.
In previous Mario games.
And we will identify which are the ones that we like and which are the ones that we enjoy.
And so since we each have 5, and I have no idea, it's very open-ended. We gave ourselves a lot of room to play around in. So I don't really know which components you're going to be taking and which ones I'm going to be taking. So maybe we will only really have enough to create one game.
Sure. I mean, and so I guess that'll be the first goal is let's try to build a single Mario game that is compatible with all 10 of these traits that we are pulling from other games in the Mario series. And like Mark said, we have not discussed these at all. We don't know. I don't know what he picked. He doesn't know what I picked.
We really like springing things on each other.
Yeah, being like, deal with this. And so we'll see, what qualities or what characteristics from old Mario games that we would like to see in a new one. And I think sort of this conversation came about because we're excited about Mario Odyssey coming up, and its influences seem pretty clear, right? That it's taking a lot of the more exploration-based gameplay of Super Mario 64, and so like that's an obvious, like, it is taking that quality from Mario 64, and so for the purposes of this discussion, I think we're being kind of broad with what a Mario game is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't put really any parameters on that.
Great. So just so everyone is aware, there are no parameters on anything, and our theme episodes could be a little tighter, but not this one. This one's going to be loosey-goosey. Mark, do you want to start, or should I start?
You know what? I will start.
Okay.
And one of the things that I'm pulling is storytelling from Super Mario Galaxy.
Okay.
I think that there's not a lot of storytelling in Mario games.
Mm-hmm.
The story probably the Mario game with the most storytelling is Super Mario Sunshine, and that game is a nightmare of exposition.
Yes.
Like the first, I don't even know, it legitimately 10 to 15 minutes is just watching a endless cutscene
Yeah.
and like the story yeah, and it involves like a Mario doppelganger that's like Dark Mario basically that's running around and it's just endless and not any fun. But in contrast to that, Super Mario Galaxy to me is the perfect amount of storytelling in a Mario game because it's there if you want it,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't, you can completely ignore it. But what is there is actually pretty beautiful.
So our games may be more compatible than we think because my fifth entry here is a simple, sad, sweet story like Rosalina's storybook from Super Mario
Yeah,
Galaxy.
there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, like I also like that the storytelling in Galaxy is optional. If you visit Rosalina in the library, she's reading the storybook of how she wound up on the satellite, the spaceship, the starship, um, and it's a very simple story, right? Like Aluma comes to Earth looking for its mother, and Rosalina's like, "I'll help you find your mother." They get lost in space, and like that's it. And then she's just like the mother to the Lumas after that. And Rosalina grows up and like goes back and sees her mother die or something like that. Um, and it's all just like the normal passage of life, the sort of like ennui that comes with real living. Um, and it would be so cool to see another story like that in a Mario game. And whether that's it could as a thing that you can opt into engaging in or something that's actually like comes about as part of the gameplay doesn't matter as much to me. But the simplicity of that story, and how sweet it is, um, both are like really important.
It I and we're not saying that like we want this in Odyssey necessarily.
No, no, no. I think where we are now putting together a game like a post Odyssey game, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because for some reason, this like really like sweet, kind of like softer story,
Mm-hmm.
um, fits really well in Galaxy, and I think some of that is, at least for me, it's like that like night sky atmosphere, and like when you're
Yeah.
running around in that central hub area, it is kind of like, I don't know, like relaxing isn't necessarily the word I'm looking for, but it just feels very like peaceful. Like it makes sense to me
Yeah.
that the Galaxy would have this component. It doesn't really fit on Isle Delfino. It doesn't really fit, in
Yeah.
Peach's
Sure.
castle necessarily.
Or on like a Yoshi Island or whatever.
Yeah, but it works really well in Galaxy, and
Mm-hmm.
I liked that contrast between the more centered, like calm, awe-inspiring hub world, and then the busyness of the levels that you go to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's. I mean, I also think it's so interesting that like. I think there is a fan base that is built up around Rosalina for a couple different reasons. The character has a really interesting voice, but on top of that, in her first appearance, the character has such a cool and compelling origin story that like I don't know, I in preparation for this I watched the whole thing on YouTube and like if you haven't seen it before, it's beautiful and like sad and soft and like gets to something real. Um and I feel like we don't often connect to Mario characters on an emotional level that's not just like fun 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 fun. Um and like that's what I want. That's what I need from a Mario story. I don't need like a compelling or like a logically put together story. I just need something that is emotional and real in that way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So I apologize that we had the the same thing for number one. So I guess I'm gonna bounce it back to you for because otherwise I'll run out.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, unless you want me to make one up on the fly.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, speaking of, I mentioned Isle Delfino. little earlier, that's the kind of like hub world
Hmm.
from Super Mario Sunshine. And that is one aspect of that game, kind of like a much maligned Mario game, that I would really like to see repeated in a future Mario game.
So what's that? A central hub world?
So it's not just a central hub world, it's like a central hub world that is alive.
Okay.
Because like uh both Mario 64 has like Peach's Castle,
Yeah, but
and
that's empty
yeah,
except
it's
for
a
some
ghost
like
town.
toad ghosts.
Right. And then, y- Galaxy kind of has like a central the first Galaxy has like a central world, but that is also not very populated. It's not like a
Hmm.
bustling like town type atmosphere. And this does look like something that Odyssey potentially will have more of as well.
Yeah, well, I think there are like more alive, like the kingdoms seem to be a little bit more like alive and open, but like there's no hub world really.
Right, and that's what you have in Isle Delfino is
Mm.
you will always return to this like central hub, and it's fairly large. There are different areas of it, and like different like there's a large clock tower in the middle that you get to later in the game, and it opens up like one of the best worlds that
Hmm.
you can visit. But it has inhabitants and it has different things for you to look and explore, and they're like secrets for you to find,
Yeah.
and that's something that I feel like has been missing from Mario games and even 3D Mario games. You have something like 3D World where it's much more just like you're running down a path.
Yeah.
For like Galaxy 2 completely removed that hub world
Hmm.
entirely.
I mean, it mostly there was still the face ship that you were on that you could run around a little bit, but like that's an incredibly small little planet that you're on. So yeah, that makes sense to me as something that is um, cool and been like missing from the series of late.
Well, cuz I feel like modern Mario has always been this uh give and take between trying to do something new in like the 3D space, but make it palatable for people who the last Mario they played was like Super Mario Brothers 3.
Hmm.
And that's what I feel like the world map of 3D World and of Galaxy 2
Yeah,
and definitely of the new Super Mario Brothers games
yeah, all
are
of
like
them.
harken more back to that, where it's just like, oh, played a Mario Brothers game in my life, so I know how this works.
Hmm.
Whereas like something like Peach's Castle is that's a huge leap from
Yeah,
the how you traverse like Super Mario World.
yeah, and it gives you something to like. Man, I remember, and this is part of just moving around in a 3D space was new when Super Mario 64 came out. But I remember just spending time running around that castle and like just checking it out and just uh you know loving that I knew the layout of that place and it feeling like a real building. Um, and that I've never actually played Sunshine, so I don't know if Isle Delfino feels like that too. But yeah, that's what a cool feeling to have that like familiarity of place. Okay, so here's my this was my number one. That the Super Mario Galaxy thing was my final point. But my first point is I want the chaotic multiplayer of Super Mario 3D World. I love the couch co-op in that game and running around in levels that are equally as fun for one person to like skillfully, thread the needle and like get to where they need to go and running around it with four people in, a mess running into each other, throwing each other into enemies and stuff. Um, I want that flexibility back. And there's like the new Mario games on Wii and Wii U sort of have it, but like you can also tell that the game's not really built for four people, right? Like four people is too many for those games and they're just nonsense. But 3D World, man, it feels so good to have two, three, or four players all running around,
That's so in
getting in each other's way.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I haven't played as much of 3D World
Hmm.
because I never owned a Wii U, and so I think the most I've played of it was in multiplayer.
Yeah.
So I didn't experience the single player aspect of it as much, but I don't know, like for me, the Mario that I want is mostly like a single player like focused experience
Okay.
because I think the platforming can be more like focused and challenging because they don't have to find the balance or contending with. But this might also be played with like four people that are you all have to be in the view of one camera.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I can respect that, but I think that 3D World does manage that and maybe it's a remarkable and irrepeatable feat, right? That like that game does have platforming sections that are challenging, sometimes made more challenging by the fact that there are multiple people trying to land on the same little platform at the same time. Um, but yeah, like um I like couch co-op, and it's a bummer when like the Galaxy games have a Starbit collecting mode for player 2, and there's something for Odyssey too, right?
Yeah.
Something like that where the second player can do something.
Don't they control like Cappy or something like
I don't.
that?
It's something like that. But like I don't need that, right? Like
Yeah, the Starbit thing in Galaxy.
I mean, like
I don't understand.
I would do it when my friends were playing, and my friends would do it when I was playing. But it's just kind of like, do you want to do this? And it's like, okay, I guess. But if yeah, I want there to be a way to share the experience with someone else on the couch with me and play together.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the new Super Mario Brothers games were the perfect encapsulation of that like four-player chaos. I do think that 3D World did a really good job of like I don't know splitting the difference between the exploration of more hardcore not hardcore but like Mario 64 and Sunshine type
Sure.
3D levels and the course based
Mm-hmm.
like 2D levels. And so that's why I think it's perfect for multiplayer.
That you're still sort of like running a course. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know
instead
how
of
it
like
would.
an totally open space.
Yeah, like I don't know how it would work in something that is more like exploration based, more open ended.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, and so maybe, the thing that we're describing, if we're like putting these games together, right, is like an open, alive hub world with like course based levels inside it somehow. Jumping through a painting, for example. Or whatever. I don't know. You got
yeah.
another one?
So, uh, my next one, I'm trying to think of like the best way to like this one specifically
Yeah. Okay.
to present it because
You're afraid I'm going to walk out?
I mean, look, the Mario series has amazing music,
Mm-hmm.
but I think for me, the piece that I want to pull is the music stylings of Super Mario Brothers 3.
All right.
And
Okay.
I don't even mean like that it has to be like 8-bit versions of this,
Mm-hmm.
but just that's like iconic Mario music
Yeah.
that has, like laid the foundation for other music throughout the series. And we've kind of evolved away from that and not in a bad way. Like the music in Galaxy is amazing.
Right.
And I anticipate that Odyssey is going to have similarly amazing music. But I would love, I don't know, to me that Super Mario Brothers 3 is Mario in so many aspects
Yeah. Yeah.
that I would love to see music kind of like built on that foundation, whatever that means.
Sure. So like a little bit more like the kind of ragtime based, like high energy stuff. Maybe throwing out some of the more like symphonic music that Mario has like gotten over the last couple of years.
Which is such a bummer
Decades.
because again, like Galaxy is amazing. Like the music in Galaxy is amazing,
Right.
but
But when there is like a high soaring like string theme or horns or whatever, like that does make it different, right? That takes away from the sort of like carefree fun of like Mario 3. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's an interesting pull too.
I do feel like it's cliche to pull from Mario 3 only because it is so like it's whenever they want to do a nostalgia check, they go to Mario 3. Like the
Yeah.
Tanuki suit, or
Yeah. I mean,
like the
it's
Koopa
all,
kids.
and yeah, those Koopa kids. And it seems like, any conversation about like what the best or most influential Mario games are is going to come down to 3 or World. So like it's a little cliche to pull from either of those games. I'm going to pull from World later. You ready for my next one?
Yeah.
I want, and this doesn't have to be like the main way the game is played, but this needs to be a feature in it, the kind of bite-sized, arcadey, connected action of Super Mario Run. I want a way to um, do something quickly and then quickly compare it to everyone else who's playing, and have that sort of like instant feedback of like, I did this course this well and all of my friends did it also this well, and having that sort of like quick instant feedback in like bite-sized chunks like Super Mario Run.
Are leaderboards an aspect of, because so in Super Mario Run, if you haven't played it, like
Mhm.
if you have friends connected to the game, once you beat a level, you can see which of your if you have the most coins in that level, or if one of your friends has the most coins in that level, and you can always try to like challenge yourself to retake that like leader position.
Yeah.
And it is a really cool feature that in Super Mario Run that would totally work in a connected Mario game.
Yeah. So that's like it sounded like you were maybe leading to the question of like, do the leaderboards matter, or you
No, I guess I was in my head, I couldn't remember if something like that has already existed, like in 3D World or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean in 3D World you could leave like Miiverse posts for other players, which was also true in like, Mario Maker or the new Super Mario Brothers U. But yeah, I like the idea of having it be like all competition based or all like achievement based. And, Mario Run is also good for like in Remix 10, I can see where you are on the board and where Sarah is, and I can like try and catch up to her, or, I got medals for catching up to you. Like that was fun. Or like just seeing, how people have, um, oh, it looks like Andrew hasn't collected all 3 black coins in this level yet. Like, ha ha ha. That sort of stuff is cool and fun, and I especially with like the sort of more bite-sized challenge experiences, I think really facilitates that, and jumping into like just do it better than your friend.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that they could totally incorporate into any like Mario game. Like before you
Yeah,
jump it, like even in Mario 64, when you jumped into a portrait, you then had to select which
yeah. Which of
like
the 6 stars you were going in
you were
for?
going after, and you could easily have, ace,
Yeah,
however many like coins he collected in, or the time that he completed it in.
that's Mark. Mark is ace.
If you didn't know.
Oh.
All right, so my next one
Mm-hmm.
is I'm pulling from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door.
Perfect.
And the thing I want to pull from that is the humor of that
Great.
game.
Yes.
And kind of like the Paper Mario series. Thank you. Thank you. Kind of the Paper Mario series in general has like the writing is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And but Thousand Year Door is my favorite Paper Mario game, and it's the one that stands out the most in my mind. And I don't know, it would be a difficult thing to meld the humor of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door with the sincerity of Galaxy, but
Sure.
not impossible.
The thing that I think is so interesting is that the Paper Mario games do have a great sense of humor. So do the Mario and Luigi games. And I'm playing Super Mario RPG on the SNES Classic right now, and it has a great sense of humor. Um, all the Mario RPGs seem to have great, just like joke writing in them, and just great writing in general. And I'd love to see that in the mainline Mario games. Like there are so many Mario RPGs that are written well and that are funny. Like, and there's like a charm to the way other Mario games are written, but like I feel like you don't get that emphasis on humor in any of the more action oriented titles. I think that's a great thing for a modern Mario game to have.
Yeah, and I think it does like change the tone of would change the tone of a Mario game a little bit because Mario is like innocent and sickly, like sweet,
Hmm.
and
That
the
sweetness is something that we are calling for, by the way.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But part of the reason that the humor of the Paper Mario games work is because it's like self-aware and tongue-in-cheek,
Hmm.
and you do have, and Mario is not cynical
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form, and so I don't know how you necessarily bring those two together without ruining both.
Right. Well, first of all, Mario doesn't have to be cynical, but other characters in his universe can be, right? I think that's where it happens,
Yeah, I guess
or that irony can come from other
we've
places.
just never seen anything like that before.
Hmm.
Everything is played so earnestly. Even in something like uh, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle,
Hmm.
right? Like the Mushroom Kingdom characters pretty much keep their dignity, for lack of a better word, intact, right? And then
Right.
it's the Rabbids that are
Yeah,
um,
that are like
the
dangled upside
troublemakers.
down, or
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
trapped on some weird bucket.
But yeah, you're right. You could do it with periphery characters.
Yeah. Um, I think that's great. I want to laugh at Mario games. Okay. This one is a broad. This is a broad ask here, and also starts with a phrase that I felt bad writing, and I'm gonna feel even worse saying. I want the foundational aesthetic invention of Super Mario Land 2 6 gold coins. Allow me to explain. Um, this is the game that gave us Wario. There was no Wario before Super Mario Land 2 6 gold coins. There's no Bowser. There are no Koopa Kids. Even all of the power ups are weird, right? There's like a rabbit hat that lets Mario glide. In addition, the worlds are all super strange. There's a space land, a macro land, which is like a house, like a giant house that you like are teeny tiny in. And there's a land that's called Mario Land. You're in like a giant robotic Mario. Um, so basically, Super Mario Land to six gold coins was taking aesthetic chances that I don't think another Mario game has attempted like on that same scale yet, right? Using none of the crutches from earlier in the series and inventing something as lasting and as powerful as Wario. I mean, like Wario, right? Like Wario is a foundational component of the Mario universe as far as I'm concerned. And I want to see another, like the only other recent addition to like the Mario canon that I can think of is Rosalina, right? And we've got this sweet story to tie to it. But like I want to see that instead of more Koopa Kids or like Bowser again. Let's see a game without Bowser, you know? I want some foundational aesthetic invention.
That'd be great. I mean, and kind of to piggyback on that, I would love to see, those chances being taken in the environments that
Yeah.
you're in. The stuff in Odyssey seems fun, but it
Hmm.
also seems very familiar. You have your desert area, you have your ice area, you have
Yeah.
your, like foresty area. Everything kind of checks the boxes of so far of like what we're familiar with and
Yeah.
comfortable with in a Mario game.
Yeah. And I did, one of my notes says that it seems like Odyssey is on somewhat the right track here,
New
where
Donk
like
City.
New Donk City seems like a totally new thing for Mario. Even like the desert world has this sort of like Mexican Dia de los Muertos like twist on it. Um, and there's a giant like photorealistic T-Rex, so like it seems like it is taking some chances that we haven't seen it in previous Mario games, but I it just I even if everything they try isn't going to be successful or cool, like I would love to see them take more chances.
And you don't really know what's going to be successful or cool until
No.
you try, like Wario,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
It's such a simple idea, right? Like just take Mario and like make him gross. There you go.
What I mean, and to kind of speak outside the scope of this particular thought exercise, man, I just kind of wish we would have that in games in general
Absolutely. Yeah.
right now. I feel like w- there are these just like familiar tropes in a platformer that you're going to see,
Hmm.
like fire, ice, desert, like jungle that you can just like count on those showing up.
Yep.
And when they do show up, even when they're well done, they feel less exciting now. Like when we were playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and the first area of that game is just kind of your standard jungle, Donkey Kong,
Yeah.
bananas, vines, and
It's a bummer.
yeah, and it was like it was fine, but nothing about it was engaging. Even the music was just kind of samey. And then it wasn't until we got out into kind of things we hadn't seen, like an autumnal, like alpine village with owls,
Yeah.
you
In
know,
Lederhosen.
yeah, that you were like, oh yeah, this is like really exciting. And even though the mechanics are familiar, like the aesthetic choices are exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like, Breath of the Wild, God love it, a great Zelda game, but like, the races that you encounter in Hyrule are Gorons and the I listed one. The Rito, the bird people, the Zora, and the Gerudo. Like, you've seen all those races before in previous Zelda games, and they're cool, and I like seeing them and all that stuff. But like some just some real invention, I think is what I want from a new Mario game.
So my final one,
Hmm.
I guess we're at 5, is I would love to see a return of the hidden exits and secondary exits from Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Like I think that was such
Hold
a
on, mine is piggybacking off
oh
of this,
great,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna lump it in here and we can talk about it all together. Specifically, I want Star Road back from Super Mario World. A path that you can hit like a forking path, and like you just get this divergent like set of levels that will meet back up with the game in various points, but like there are different mechanics and like different colored Yoshis and stuff up there. And I think that goes like hand in hand with secret exits to levels. Um, so like a reason to go back, a totally different way to play a level or the whole game.
And one of the cool things about Star World, because modern Mario games, a lot of them, they seem to be broken up into like two parts.
Hmm.
There's the main game itself that you play, you can beat, and it has some challenging levels, but in general, it's designed so that way anybody can play and finish.
Yeah.
And then there's usually like a bonus world after that that
Right.
is punishingly challenging.
Or even a couple bonus worlds.
Yeah, or a
Yeah.
couple of bonus worlds. And that's where like the real challenge of the game
Right.
comes from. But the Star World is different because, like you were saying, you could get there earlier,
Hmm.
and once you're there, it like there are it causes like persistent changes
Yes.
in the actual like world, main overworld itself.
Right. And you can access it from multiple different points on the main overworld map. And like if you want to, like the your very first Star Road entrance, you can then take Star Road and play all those Star Road levels and then like pop out at the last level. Like if you want to play the game the Star Road path, you can do that. And it's a totally different experience and a totally different way the game is laid out.
And then built inside of so many of the Super Mario World levels are secondary or hidden exits
Yes.
that so you can play through it once, and each of them are indicated with like a red.
Hmm.
I don't even know what you would call that. Like
Yeah, like the dot that indicates where the world is.
yeah,
Is red.
and
Yeah.
one that yeah. So when you know that there's a secret exit, it's red, and so once you've beaten it once, it's just there, like beckoning to you to go back and like try to find it because some of them are fairly difficult or well
Hmm.
hidden, and so it incorporates that challenge like earlier in the game instead of saving it to the end. But it also is completely optional. Like
Yeah.
you can play through it and not know it's there, and it's totally fine. And again, one of the aspects of this that I think is really interesting that they've never really gone back to after World is this as you progress through it, you're making changes to like the landscape
Yeah.
that remain
Yeah.
and like change the way
yeah.
you traverse the world.
Yeah. I also really like the idea that the Star Road, like you can like take the stars back down into the real world, and if you haven't unlocked the path yet, you just sort of see what the level in front of you is. you can't actually access it. You're like, oh, I should go back and like forge the actual path getting there so I can be in this cool forest or, you know, wherever those the stars drop you. It's just such a cool way to like get different perspectives on the game as you're playing it instead of wait till the very end for it to be like, okay, here are the remixed hard levels. We can have some of those hard levels and some of that broadening experience as we're playing the game. So Mark, I think that's one heck of a game that we've created.
Yeah, totally. One thing I think is interesting is that neither of us really pulled specific like moves or mechanics from Mario, and I think that's just a testament to how well made these games are.
Yeah.
In that, like, we're very trusting that a new Mario game is going to be mechanically sound.
Yeah, well, and also I trust that, like, I feel like I don't have to say, oh, you know, the joy of making Mario run and jump around like Mario 64. Like, he's gonna have those. He's gonna be able to do the long jump, that like triple jump, and like the kind of back cartwheel thing. Like, those are things that I expect Mario to be able to do and for me to have fun doing.
And
right?
I mean, we haven't seen every single one of those in every single iteration.
Right.
But yeah, in general, it's just the reason you look forward to a Mario game at all is because it's fun to control Mario.
Right. And now with these additions, it'll have a sad story in an open world hub with humor and bite-sized challenges and you know, some weird inventive aesthetic stuff. I think this is a good game, Mark.
It sounds amazing.
We put together a great game. Mark, let's move out of this weird fantasy segment. And of course, we're only moving out of one weird fantasy segment to address a previous weird fantasy segment. A couple weeks ago, we had our Super Smash Brothers fantasy draft, and you know, we've been gradually getting responses to it. We got a tweet from @JEdwardsBooks. He says, BTW, which means by the way, how can you have a Smash Brothers draft that doesn't have Zero from Mega Man X in it?
Great point. I have no rebuttal.
I guess my only rebuttal is that Zero is already in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He's old news. I don't need him.
Patrick's all about the Flash.
I'm all about that Flash. Show me something new or get out. And then let's see. We also got a tweet about Smash Brothers. Hold on, I'm looking for it. I apologize for this.
I'll take this opportunity to give big ups to @JEdwardsBooks.
Yep, big ups. So Nikki, and we mentioned Nikki's tweet last week.
So of course, big ups to Nikki.
Big ups to Nikki. @Penquin is her Twitter handle. She brought up a Chrono Trigger character. I neglected to mention that she said possibly Isla for her. Isla is the cave woman character, who's an awesome pick, and what a good pull. I think we both said Frog, right?
Yeah,
which is also good.
It's no
Isla.
It's no Isla.
And she also going to bat for maybe us censoring myself or censoring me. She says, for what it's worth, I also would have chosen Banjo-Kazooie too, but she respects the veto. So I tried to put Banjo-Kazooie on my list.
I know, and it was tough, but I had to use the veto, because why have a veto if you can't use it?
Hey man, I hear you loud and clear. And any other characters that now in the cold light of 2 weeks later, you're like, oh man, I really should have picked?
No, but the thing I regret is
What's that?
not just picking, because in our conversation I was like, oh, I can't believe Splatoon 2, Squidlings, Inklings haven't come up yet, and you were like, yeah, but they're on my list. I should have just snatched them from you.
You should have just gotten from me then.
I'd have end up with bubbles.
Yeah, I don't think you were thinking about it as a competitive thing. You did not know that I was going to snipe characters that you wanted. All right, Mark, let's move out of this recap of the Smash Fantasy Draft, which you should all check out, by the way. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you have anything that you would like to have added to our Frankenstein Mario game, That we mostly did sort of like main series and then like some RPG stuff. I thought maybe one of us would have done like Luigi's Mansion or Captain Toad or whatever. So there are certainly elements of the franchise, the greater franchise, that we have not touched.
And for elements of Frankenstein that we didn't incorporate either.
Yeah, I want to see neck bolts on Mario. I want him to be afraid of fire. What else does Frankenstein do?
Gets tied to an ice floe?
Is he tied to it or is he just marooned on
Oh,
it?
he must just be marooned.
Yeah. You should send all of that to our email address, which is Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Or you can tweet at us at NinCart Society or hit us up on the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Please rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and all that good stuff. We are thankful for everything that you do, including leaving a review if that is something you do. And if you don't, then we're thankful for other things. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we read about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can listen to his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, Star Road, baby, Star Road. Thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?